everybody. Happy Tuesday. I always forget what day it is and then I have to remember as I'm speaking. I hope you're all well. My name's Rosie and I'm going to be doing some doodling with you today. We're just going to doodle. We're going to have a doodle. It's Mindspace week. So I want this to be very, very relaxing. It should be. I found myself feeling very relaxed doing it. But one of the reasons I wanted to do just sort of doodling is because so many people are scared to sort of pick up a pen and not know what to do with it. If you don't feel like you're particularly artistic or you don't think you're very good at drawing, then this is perfect because it's just making shapes. We're just making shapes. And I'm going to sort of talk you through what my brain does and then you can copy me. And hopefully what you'll produce will be probably very abstract, but still very beautiful and you'll enjoy doing it. And it's the process of doing it and not the overall effect at the end, really. I guess what this is sort of like a fancy version of colouring in. So I remember a few years back, sort of colouring in books for adults were very, very popular because people found it very relaxing, colouring in and not going out the lines. So it's kind of like that, but with lines and patterns and decorations and things like that. So I want you to try and do this along with me if you can, because I'm going to sort of talk you through it step by step. But really, I'm sort of going to encourage you to really just enjoy the process and feel quite relaxed doing it. It's not supposed to be scary. This is supposed to be really lovely and fun. So I've got a few examples here of my very, very random doodles. But I thought what I'd do is I'll sort of recreate one of these doodles, but show you how I did it. Because you might think something like this, for example, it looks quite intricate and it looks quite detailed, looks quite fancy, but this is an example of me just going with the flow and just sort of filling spaces. That's all we're doing. We're just filling gaps and filling spaces. So we're going to do something similar to this today. And I don't want to use many materials at all. I just want to use some pens and some paper. And that's it really. The only other thing that I've got is some of the washi tape. Washi tape is sort of like small masking tape that you might want to use to frame your work if you wanted to sort of create a nice sharp edge. So we might do a bit of that as well. We'll see how we get on. But I've just got myself a random selection of pens here. The main one I'm going to be using is this black one here, which is a brush pen, but it's quite a small nibbed brush pen. So it's so that you can get thick and thin lines. But if you haven't got one of these, then I would recommend just a black fine liner or a black felt tip pen that's got quite a thin nib so that you can do nice thin details. Other than that, all I think I've used is a couple of highlighter pens and a felt tip pen. That's it. That's all I've used. Just a few random pens that I found in a pencil case. So it doesn't have to be fancy stuff. If you have got highlighters, keep hold of those because I'm going to do a follow on from this for a bit more relaxing doodling for my next session. So keep that in mind if you've got highlighter pens. So I think what I'm going to do is I've got just a standard, I think it's one of those Moleskine notebooks. So it's a fancy one. But I didn't mean for it to be fancy. I could just use any paper. If you've got like your bog standard printing paper, if you've got a notebook with plain paper. In fact, it doesn't have to be plain paper. It can be any paper you like. Something that you're happy with doodling on, really. That's all that matters. And I just want you to feel sort of super relaxed and kind of just enjoy the process. So I'm going to move these out of the way, but sort of try and frame the sort of area I'm using so that you can still see a bit of them. I've tried to angle my camera today so that I can sort of sit and draw without my face popping out the side of the camera, which is what usually happens. So hopefully I can sit and concentrate as well and just we can just take it real easy and real slow. So the first thing that I usually do, and this is something that I teach in a lot of different types of art, and there's lots of different ways that I try to encourage people to have a go at being creative and artistic, especially for people who don't think they're very artistic. And I would say the best way to describe that is to fill spaces. That when you're creating gaps and filling spaces, what that means is that the rest of it is much less scary. Why is my camera doing lots of weird focusing? It's very strange. Let's see if I can make it stop. It will probably be fine when I start drawing. So we're basically just going to make loads of really simple shapes and then fill the gaps. It's as simple as that. So I'm going to start with a highlighter pen. The reason I'm going to use highlighter pens is they're quite light, so we can draw on top of them, but they're creating shapes, which means that we're just filling spaces then, which is very nice. So we'll start with pink, obviously, because pink's the best. And I'm going to make some random shapes. What I quite like to do with these sort of doodles is sort of imagine that we're creating a landscape, but a very simple and abstract landscape. So what I might do is I might do some shapes on this half and leave the bottom half almost as if like we're doing like a line, as if that was the ground and this was the sky. So you might think of it like that. You might think of it in that way. You don't have to. But I also quite like sort of cloud bubble shapes. That will all become clear in a minute. But essentially, I'm just going to make some shapes. So this is what I would call a sort of cloud bubble shape. It's not a cloud bubble shape at all, is it? And the reason I quite like using highlighter pens as well is they're really nice to colour in. We can make really lovely broad strokes. And that feels quite nice. Again, I want to sort of recreate sort of the colouring in book aspect and how relaxing that feels, because it always feels nice to colour in a nice big gap and watch the sort of colour fill the space. So that's what we're going to do to begin with, and then that will sort of create our landscape, which we can then fill with details. Okay. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to do another shape. I'm going to go with a green now, see what happens with the green. And I'm thinking I want to sort of create this line along here. And so I want to sort of fill these gaps here, and then we'll fill this later. So I'm thinking straight away, this lovely curve here might be quite nice to fill that in such a way. So I'm going to do like a sort of almost like a rainbow shape, I guess. Oh yeah, that feels nice to do that sort of arch over with a nice highlighter pen, and that feels good. I'm going to try and not make these sort of coloured in shapes that we're doing are probably not going to be very angular. They're going to be quite sort of swooping motions, wiggly lines, circular lines. Always feels nice to sort of colour in a straight line in one go as well. Fantastic. So we've got our second shape, and now we'll perhaps go in with the yellow. And I'm going to sort of do a similar shape, maybe slightly smaller. Well, there's a little dog hair, and my dog hairs get everywhere. I really like the yellow highlighter. I think the yellow highlighter is my favourite because it's always so zingy. It's always the most neon, I think. And the great thing about this is you can't really go wrong, because it doesn't matter what the shape is. It doesn't have to be perfect. It can be a random shape, because this is just filling space at the minute, and then we can add the details afterwards. Well, we might as well have an orange. Well, I've got all 4 highlighter pens. We might as well do the last one. And I'm going to do the same sort of thing again, just to fill this gap here. And then again, we're just going to fill that shape there. Highlighter pens are quite good for colouring in as well, because they usually have this sort of chiselled nib, which means you get a nice thick line. And most importantly, it means we're going to see all of the stuff we do on top of it because they're super light. Fantastic. Okay, so we've got 4 shapes. And if I go back to the sort of one we were looking at here, you can see I've done the same sort of thing. I've done 4 shapes and then I've just created lots and lots of doodles all the way around it. So we're going to sort of try and replicate this a little bit, and I'll show you how I go about doing that. So first of all, I'm going to get myself, so I'm probably going to work quite a lot now with my black brush pen or black fine liner. I mean, if you only have a black biro, that's also fine. Quite like working with biros sometimes, actually. I think biros can be quite good. So now I'm going to think about how I'm going to fill these spaces, what sort of patterns I'm going to do. And if you've done any of my classes before, I've probably spoke about these sorts of things before and these sort of patterns. We're looking at lines, we're looking at circles, we're looking at leaves, flowers, suns, planets, but very, very simple, very, very simple lines. And the reason that we do these pictures to begin with, these sort of shapes, is that now we don't have to be so worried about filling this space because we can do it one step at a time. We'll start with the smallest, we'll start with the yellow one. Now you could think about outlining it. That always feels quite nice to outline something. So maybe we'll outline this to begin with, and it doesn't have to be exact. You can overlap it if you want, because these shapes look beautiful with the highlighter pen. So it doesn't matter if it goes over the edge or not. I think that looks quite nice. There we go. So we've done something, we've outlined something. And in fact, I might just move my camera in slightly more so you can see the details a bit better. I think that might help. And let's hope my camera doesn't just randomly go blank for a while. It's supposed to be Mindspace week. I don't know why my phone's playing up. I'm supposed to be relaxing. So we'll start real easy. We'll just do a series of lines. I think lines are so much fun. So if you think about filling this space, I'm going to do loads of little lines and I'm going to follow the curve of the shape. So I'm going to start at the top, and can you see that I'm moving the pen at the same sort of, it's parallel to the curve of the shape. And I'm going to work my way all the way around. So there we've got some lines. Now, what I would encourage you to do now is to think about different sized lines. So now I've gone much shorter, and we're just going to sort of mix it up a bit essentially. So all we're doing is drawing lines. Everyone can do that, super, super easy. But because we've done different lengths of the lines and we're being quite conscious about where we're placing those lines, it already looks pretty impressive, I think. Like it's got a real nice feel to it. So I'm going to do some really little ones again. So you could do thinner lines, thicker lines. And as long as you're thinking about it creatively, as long as you're thinking about where you want it to go and what sort of shape they want it to be, you can't go wrong really. So now I might do a much longer line. And I think drawing lines like this is also quite therapeutic. I think it's very relaxing. I'm going to have to be very careful about how relaxed I get so that I remember to keep talking to you. Otherwise, we might be in a situation where I fall asleep. And there's no way you're going to be able to wake me up. I can't hear you. So we've got a lovely set. I might do one more lot of little lines because that feels really nice to do. And then we might move on to a different shape or a different pattern. So I quite like a, what would you call it? Not a spiral, maybe like a spring. I'll show you what I mean, but I really like doing these. These feel really nice to do. And you can practice doing these over and over again because you can do them in different ways. This shape, it's sort of like a spring, isn't it? But I really enjoy doing these. They're really fun to do. That looks really nice. And then what other shapes have we got that we could do? We could do a little sort of scalloped edge like this. That feels really nice. And then we might look at that scalloped edge and actually think we might underline it. And by underlining a shape, we're now sort of creating different areas within the shapes themselves. So now we've got this lovely gap here. We might even consider colouring this in or adding something to it. So we might just do some little dots inside each scallop, which looks really nice. And then, so now we're looking at this shape here and you think, well, how are we going to fill this shape? This sort of feels like it might have a nice curve on it like that. And we're recreating that sort of rainbow shape, but opposite. And then how might we go about decorating the inside of that? Well, we could just follow that curve. And that feels really nice too. Lovely. So now we've got this really thin bit here, so we could maybe go back in with our lines. I'll do some little ones. One more there maybe. And then a longer, thinner one. And now I'm thinking I might do a circle. And then I might do one more rainbow shape, underline that. And now we might do some smaller circles on the inside. And then we might replicate that rainbow shape in here. Oh, lovely. So we have now filled one of our shapes. All we've done is some little lines and some random shapes, but I think it looks really lovely. I'm really pleased with that. So now we can move on to our next shape. So I'm thinking what we're probably going to do is we're going to fill each shape and then work around it, because once we've filled these shapes, we're going to feel a whole lot better about filling the space because we'll have done a bulk of it. And it's going to be super easy to fill those shapes because they've already got an outline, which we're just, all we're doing really is sticking to that outline and making sure we don't go over it. So let's have a look at our example piece again. Let's see what sort of things we could do. So we've filled a sort of line shape. I would really like to do some leaves. Maybe we'll do some leafy shapes next because they're really relaxing to do. But what I did really like about one of those shapes is that I'd sort of started to outline them a little bit. So we might do that with one of these. I quite like the idea of doing some lines. So maybe we'll start by just following the curve of this green rainbow with a series of lines. And that is very enjoyable to do. We might not go all the way round because we've got a lovely gap here, which we might want to fill with something else. So I might just stop there. And now, yeah, let's go in with some leafy shapes. So I'm going to start with what I think is probably the easiest one. I'm just going to move these highlighters out of the way. I think probably the easiest sort of leafy shape to do. So I'm going to start near the top and I'm going to follow again parallel to this rainbow line, and I'm going to work my way all the way down like that. And then I'm simply going to make a sort of pointy shape. I don't know what you would call that, pointy shape. And we're going to make those points. So it's a leaf shape, isn't it? It's not a pointy shape, it's a leaf shape. So what I'd really encourage you to do is to really think about when we're doing these leaf shapes, how you can change them ever so slightly. So some of them might be longer and thinner. Some of them might be quite symmetrical. Some of them might curve over the other way. And you're just wiggling away. As long as you've got that lovely leaf shape, that sort of point at the end, you can start quite far down and make that work all the way along. You could fit two smaller ones in here. And I think as long as your pointy leaf shapes are all ever so slightly different, then you're going to get that lovely sort of diversity of shape, and it's going to just look a bit better. So this is just really exploring how we draw shapes. You know, you've got your bog standard leaf shape, which is sort of just your two brackets, I suppose, joined together. And how can we make that different? And of course, this is a perfect time to sort of explore that, because there's no consequence to this. You're not painting a picture, we're just doodling. Now, this is the really exciting bit, because we've done our leaves, and now we can think about what we want to do with them. So we could colour them in. We could do little lines. So if we did a little line along the middle of it, like you see on a standard leaf, or you might put a dot in them, and maybe we could do a combination of the two. So it's quite nice to sort of think about randomly sort of colouring some in. So I might colour this one in, and colouring leaves in is fun. Do a dot on that one. Might do a line on this one and a line on this one. And you're just sort of going with how you feel, really. I might colour this one in as well. And then maybe a line and a dot and a dot. And I might colour this one in. Line one. There, so you've got some lovely random bits and pieces there. We've lined some, we've coloured some in, and we've dotted some. And that just gives it a real sort of unique look to it. So that's one way of doing leaves. We can do, I mean, there's so many different ways we can do it. I think I'm going to do one from this side now. So for one, we might just continue a shape. So this will be quite interesting to do, because this requires you to not take your pen off the paper and just sort of go with it. So I'm going to do this side first, and I'm going to try and stick to this line here. And I'm going to go up, and then I'm going to do a wiggly line and then back in. And I'm just sort of, can you see it? It's almost sort of like coral. And as long as I always go back towards the middle to sort of create that idea that there's a stem there. And the top, the ends of your leaves or whatever they are could be pointy, or they can be curved. It really doesn't matter. And you can just explore making these branches pull out and then come back into the center again. And you're just working your way along until you get back to the bottom. And there you have that lovely tree shape. And that's really fun, because it's you're just letting your hand sort of move and trying not to think about it too much. Now, one of the things we can do with this, which is really fun and relaxing, is we can shadow it. So we could choose one side. So if we chose the right hand side, then the right hand side of every branch, we could just add a little shadow to it. So we're just going to make it ever so slightly thicker. And that's really good fun, because you're following a line that you've already drawn. So there's nothing to worry about. All you're doing is going over it and making it slightly thicker, which I always think feels quite nice. And then we'll do the same on this side. So we're just making that line thicker on the right hand side, all the branches. Oh, lovely. So now that lovely sort of tree that we've created has got a bit of a shadow on it, which I think looks quite nice. Very good. I feel like there's like a tiny hair on my pen. There we go. So now we've got one more to go. I'm wondering if we should sort of stick a flower in here. So we've got this lovely gap here. So I'm going to do a little circle. And then I'm going to, the petals are going to be dictated by the space that it has. So you're just filling the space with the petals. So you don't have to worry about what your petals look like, as long as they're filling a gap. It doesn't really matter. And then what we might do is, I feel like this one needs to be coloured in. So maybe we'll colour the circle in and leave the petals, just because we want a bit of contrast between the black and the white. And then I might do a line down to the bottom, but make it quite thick. And then we might have those sort of random kind of thin leaves sort of working their way upwards that we're going to colour in, so it's nice and bold. And again, it doesn't really matter. The shape of the leaves again is dictated by the gaps that you have in the space. So it sort of takes any worry about how it might look, because as long as you're filling a space, it doesn't really matter. Lovely. So now we've basically filled that space. That's looking good. We've got our leaves in there. So now we're going to move on, because we can always do some edges in a little while. Let's move on to the pink one. This is the biggest one, so I think that's probably why I left that for a little while, because I don't want to be too worried. Do a smaller one first. But I feel like I want to feel this has kind of got a circular motion to it. So I think I'm going to fill it with something that could be quite circular. So I'm going to do a sort of sunshine, but with like the sort of the sun rays. So this is quite fun to do. We sort of start towards the middle and we're going to go out almost like doing a star, but the lines are going to be wiggly and the ends can be slightly pointy. They can be pointy if you want them to be. And this is a bit like when we did this one over here, is that we just don't stop doing it and we're just sort of working our way round. And you can make some of the rays really long, some of them shorter. I'm going to go back around this way. And this is quite fun to do. This feels very relaxing. Very good. So now we've created that sun shape, we can sort of decide at this point whether we want to colour any of it in. I mean, I quite like it as it is, but I feel like I want some of it to be black. So we could do a bit of negative space where we colour the outside in. And maybe we do that. So what we could do, this will be quite fun to do. If we outline this first half here, so I'm going to do a line around the pink, which is sort of blocking it off almost. I'm going to stop about there. And then I'm going to colour in the outside of the sun. Which just goes to show, doesn't it, that none of this you need to worry about, because you can always colour over it, you know. You can colour or draw or doodle over any bits that you're unsure of and make them into something else. And that's why this process is so fun, because it's not actually about what it's going to look like at the end at all. It's just how we're feeling in that exact moment. I really like colouring in with brush pens. It's very, very relaxing. And what you could do if you only have like a fine liner is you could do your details with your fine liner. And then if you've got like a Sharpie or a black felt tip pen, then you could do this bit with a thicker one. So I'm going to colour this bit in, but then I guess we need to decide how we end it. So what we could do is we could quite obviously make it sort of quite kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Sort of like jaggedy. So it almost like tapers out to an end. I think that would look quite nice. Like so. And I'm tempted to just do one more ray here. Don't know why, just felt like it needed slightly a little bit more of the black. Fantastic. Okay, that's looking good to me. So now we've done our sunshine, we can always do more on the inside if we wanted to do something. Maybe we'll do a spiral. Could do a lovely little spiral. Spirals are always good fun. I like doing spirals because I think if you can make it super tight, then it always looks very impressive. There we go, that's looking good, isn't it? Gorgeous. Okay, so now we want to think about how we might fill this shape. And the first thing I'm thinking is we might want to follow the line of the sun. So I'm going to start slightly in from the pink here, and I'm going to just draw a line that sort of replicates this sun shape and then stop it there. And then we can think about what we might do. Do we want to just carry on doing lines? Maybe we do. Maybe we want to just follow this line slightly and change it up every so often. Make it thicker and thinner until it sort of levels out. That's looking nice. Great. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Okay, what do we want to do next? I quite like that sort of that upside down rainbow. So I'm going to sort of replicate that line sort of, and then do that there. We might do this rainbow shape again. And then I might make this into a circle. And then I'm going to do a little star inside the circle. We might, maybe in this middle gap here, we might do some tiny, tiny little lines. And then we might put some dots in one of them as well, because why not? Fabulous. Now, what do we want to do next? I'm just going to create a shape. Oh, I've got another hair. More hair on my pen. I'm just going to follow the shape that's left, but slightly in from the pink there. And then maybe we could make that into a series of lines that we could decorate. Or do we even turn it into a grid? That would look nice. Also, we can colour it in like a checkerboard, which is always good fun. So we're colouring in sort of every other square. So we get that sort of checkerboard effect. Again, we're sort of leaning into the colouring in aspect of it, which always feels quite relaxing. Nice. So we've got a sort of little checkerboard there. That's looking good. So now we've filled that gap. The next thing that I want to do, I'm really conscious of this black bit here. I want to follow this line round. And I'm going to end it where that line starts. And then I think I'm going to create something along here that I might colour in maybe. So I might do a sort of petal, almost like a petal shape. And then I'm going to colour that in. Because then we've got the contrast of the black here and then the black on the outside. I think that's what I was sort of imagining. Okay, colour those in. Lovely. So we've still got this gap here that I want to fill. Oh, I mean, we've got loads to do. We've got loads of stuff we can do. But let's fill this shape first. Let's have a little look at our example piece and see what we've been up to. So we've done some leaves and we've done some lines. Let's see. Oh, I really like that. I really do like this spiral. Right, okay. So I'm going to draw a circle here. I feel like this is a perfect place to put a circle. And then where do I want to go next with it? I feel like I want to outline that circle. And again, that feels quite nice to do because we're not having to really think about the shape of the circle. We're just following the line. Maybe we'll do some little lines in this. Okay. Now, what I do quite like drawing, which I'm conscious we don't really have a space to do, I quite like drawing houses. And this gap here feels like it's got house shape written all over it. So I'm going to come all the way down here and do a line. And again, I'm going to follow that line up. And then I'm going to do a pointy roof. And then I'm going to do a chimney. I'm going to do the chimney this side because I feel like we could make smoke that comes out here. And then I'm going to do doorway here. And I quite like doing an archway window. And then this is sort of replicating the rainbow shapes that we've done throughout. I think we'll colour the window in. And then I quite like doing little hearts. So I might do a little heart just there. And then colour the rest of the door in. Lovely. Oh, we haven't filled this circle yet. I went way ahead of myself there, didn't I? What are we going to do inside this circle? We could do a star shape, couldn't we? So I'm going to do zigzags all the way around. So we get a nice little star in there, which is nice. And then feel like another circle in the middle of the star. And then I might do that little star shape inside that. That feels nice. And then we can do some dots around here. So you see, we're just filling gaps, aren't we? So every opportunity that I see, I'll do a shape and then go, okay, well, now that gap needs filling, so I'll do some dots there. And we're just filling and filling and filling. So I feel like these could have dots in as well. Nice. Do we want to fill a shape here? Do we want to put something here, I wonder? Maybe we'll carry on down here to begin with. I'm going to do, oh, let's do one of those lovely springs. We liked those. Lovely. And we could maybe do, let's do another scallop. We've not done a scallop for a while. And we'll dot the inside of those ones as well. And then maybe we'll do some little lines. We've been enjoying the little lines. And then I'm going to do a big rectangle at the bottom. Not quite sure what I'm going to do with it yet. Not really thought about it, but that's okay. Oh, I know. Could do a sort of semicircle like that. Maybe we could do another one this side. And maybe we could put little lines in them. maybe some dots. And then maybe we could cross the middle bit all the way through. It's quite nice, isn't it? That was enjoyable to do. So we've got our chimney, which we're going to do stuff with. I wonder if we could make the smoke run. I'm not sure if it would fit. So I feel like I want to fill this shape here with something. I mean, I feel like with the pointed edge, it would make a nice heart shape. So I'm going to fill that with a heart shape like that. That's nice. And do we maybe want to colour that in so we've got a bit more block colour going on? Fabulous. Okay, so we have now successfully filled our shapes. I think on its own that looks beautiful. I don't think we'd have to do any more if we didn't want to, but I'm going to. So I'm just going to move this one out of the way because the sticky tape is sticking to my hand. So next thing, we already know that we've got stuff going on in this background because we know we want to create some smoke coming out of that chimney. I feel like that could fill some gaps here. So I'm going to start by doing that now. I think maybe we could do a little spirally type thing. So I'm going to follow this round like this, wiggly line. And then I'm going to go round here and then I'm going to stop. And then I'm going to do another line that runs parallel so that it's creating that sort of that smoke shape. And the reason I've stopped is so that I can do a spiral and it not bash into the last bit. If that makes sense. And then we can carry on like so. Oh, that looks nice. And that can just go off the edge of the page, I think. Like that. Very nice. That fills that gap really nicely, but we can always add more detail to it. So I feel like we could do, I feel like this could have some like zigzags going around it. Should look quite nice. Maybe some little lines running alongside it. I feel like we want to do something on the edge of this as well. So maybe we'll do a sort of scalloped edge running around it. Beautiful. And now this one, I really want to do some sort of basically replicating this sort of whatever shape I called this. I want to do some more of those running along here because they're really fun to do. So I'm going to start small. I suppose they're kind of almost like long teardrop shaped because they've got rounded edges. But I always just feel they're really nice to do because they're so random, and all you're really doing is sort of, as long as you're getting a nice long rounded edge. And I think I'm going to keep going until I've hit the end of the black on this side. So I'll do 1, 2 more. So you can see I've sort of got bigger so that I can fill this space here. And now this has got loads of options as well. So I think I quite like the idea of putting a shadow on this like we did with our plant down here. So I'm going to just follow the right hand side again, just to make that bit a bit thicker. And that's really good fun to do. Lovely. Ooh. And then the last bit of shadow there. And that just sort of brings them to life a little bit, doesn't it? Sort of just makes them stand out a bit more. Okay. I think I want to do another line on the inside of this spiral, I've decided, just to make it a bit darker. So I'm just going to sort of follow the inside of it, and I'm not going to worry if I bash in to the sides at all. I just want to bring it to life a bit more. Okay, that feels better to me now. Now we're going to do this shape here. What are we going to do? And again, I feel like this has got potential. So I'm thinking a circle shape straight away. Oh, let's do a planet. So I've done a circle, and then I'm going to go to the edge of it, and I'm going to do a little loop round and then cross over the middle and then back, and then you've got yourself a little Saturn, and you can do 2 of those if you want. That always feels nice. And then I've got a space now for another little planet there, and maybe another one here, and maybe another one here. And I might do some more and then just do little dots and colour them in, and then it's sort of got that sort of space-like quality to it. And then down here again, I feel like, oh, should we do a spiral? Let's do one of those little springy spirals. I just want to fill this gap. That's great. I'm going to work my way all the way up to that planet there. Fantastic. That just darkens that bit up then, so then that looks really nice. I feel like I want to do something along here, but I'm not sure what. We've also got this gap, but I tell you what, I'm going to move on to this bottom bit now because we've got a nice big gap here. So what we're going to do with a nice big gap, well, the easiest thing to do, I think, is to sort of do some kind of foliage, sort of stems for flowers and leaves, but also these spirals are quite good if we make those quite big. These are quite easy to do as well. They fill space nice and easy. So we could do a combination of the two. I'm going to start with my big spiral. So we're going to do the same thing as before. I'm going to do basically a wiggly line that's then going to sort of turn in on itself. So it can go all the way like that. And then we can do another line that runs parallel. And then now it's going to look as if that's running behind it. So we can come out the other end, and that can go out there. Fabulous. So that's how you get a nice sort of spiral that looks sort of almost realistic. And now there's loads of potential. All we've done is sort of a wiggly line, and we've got all these gaps to fill, but we've got this line to sort of run along. So I think one thing that I quite like doing is just this, basically this shape here. So random leaves and sort of the flower on top. But just, again, we're just filling the space that we have. So we can do very random sort of leaf shapes like that. Let me go in ever so slightly closer so you can see what I'm doing, because this bit's tiny. So I'm going to do a couple of those random flowers that are just filling spaces. We might do a little tiny one with a circular, and they could run all the way along, couldn't they? And they can all have various different sort of shapes and sizes. This one could be a bit bigger. And we might go along here. And then maybe one more tiny one here. Lovely. And now we've got a decision to make. We can colour them in, or we could colour the outside of them. The possibilities are now endless, aren't they? I'm not going to do anything with them at the minute because I kind of want to fill these spaces. If I have time, I might colour them in. And then also we can kind of decide what we want to do with this. We could leave it. We could leave this spiral open and then do quite a lot of colouring in around the inside. I might replicate this, these sort of random teardroppy shapes around this curve here. That feels like a nice way to fill this. And in fact, I've spent this whole time, I've got so into it, I've spent the whole time doing this with black, but actually maybe now's the consideration for colouring in with different colours. I might do a little bit of that now just so you can see. I've got this sort of blue felt tip pen, so I might colour in some of these leaves with it. So we've almost created our own colouring in sheet that we then get to colour in ourselves as well, which is always nice. So we could go all the way along and colour those in blue if we wanted, or they could all be different colours, completely up to you. I am going to go ahead and just shadow these little weird, they look a little bit like, I don't know what they're called, but those like weird droplets you get in caves. That's what they remind me of, but I don't know what they're called. So I've just been calling them weird teardrop shapes. Okay. So now we've got that bit. How long have we got? Oh, not much longer. Let's see if we can do something down here just to fill this space. What shapes have we enjoyed doing? Oh, I tell you what, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to do a lovely star that's going to overlap the spiral, and then we can do some interesting colouring in. So I'm going to do a bit like this one up here. I'm going to do nice zigzaggy shape all the way around, and it's very purposely overlapping the spiral, but then also filling this space really nicely. Oh, look at that. And now what we can do, well, there's a couple of things we can do. We colour this bit in, but what I'm actually going to do is I'm just going to colour in these spikes, but just the overlapped bits, because I always think that looks nice. Look at that. That looks great, doesn't it? I feel like we could do the same over here, couldn't we, in this corner? Let's do the same thing. So I'm just going to fill this space with zigzags. Beautiful. And then same again, we're just going to fill in the spikes that are overlapping on the little spirally thing. Okay then. Very nice. So we've nearly filled. I'm going to do maybe just do a little bit here, maybe just sort of try and finish it off a little bit so it looks, I mean, we could carry on for ages adding to this, but I feel like we've done an awful lot of lovely doodling, and I think it looks pretty fabulous. So I think the last thing that I'm going to do, I kind of want to, I think I want to do a line along it just to sort of make it obvious that this is sort of the sky and this is the ground. So that might help in making me feel like it's finished. So this is my problem, is I never know how to stop. I just want to carry on doodling and doodling until there's nothing left. But I do have to. I do have to finish. Yeah, that feels much better. Now it's got that line on. We've got opportunities here to do some more patterns, and then there's obviously loads of potential down here for colouring in. We've got gaps here. We could do, wonder if we could do some more little flowery lines coming up of here. I think that would look really nice. So I might just do that very quickly, just so we've got that gap filled. One more here, like so. So then we've got this lovely row of flowers running all the way along, and we can maybe now choose different colours to colour the back. We could even go back in with the highlighters and colour those in. So we could, I won't do the whole thing, but we could maybe, I've got a yellow highlighter here, so I could go in and colour in this star shape yellow. I could do the whole spiral of colour as well, or I might add more patterns into it. The possibilities are endless, but I'm going to stop there so that I don't overrun. But hopefully you've got a really nice idea of how to just very intricately doodle, but very simply, and how to break it up into different chunks so it's not too scary, and how to just sort of create shapes in a kind of, I mean, it's very, very abstract, but it's super decorative and I really enjoyed doing it. I had so much fun. So hopefully it's just a nice, relaxing, mindful craft that you can do. And you should definitely do it. If you haven't done it today, if you've just watched the video, then you should definitely do it this week, because it's Mindspace week. So we need to be reminded of doing nice, mindful things that calm us and ground us and make us feel relaxed. So I certainly feel relaxed. I might go and have a lie down after this. I feel great. Thank you so much. I'm going to see you again soon. I think it's in a couple of weeks. But as I said, I wanted to do a follow-on from this because I've discovered a new art form. It's called highlighter art. So all you need is highlighters, not even any other pens, just highlighters and paper. That's all you need. And that will also be super, super relaxing. So come along to that as well if you're feeling nice and calm and relaxed after today's session and the rest of Mindspace week. And I will see you all again soon. Have a lovely, restful week. I'm Rosie, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.